Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is known for its ridiculous combos and long turns, but how much can you really do in a single turn? This time we're testing the very limits of what you can do in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. A few months back, one of you guys challenged me to win with full salvo and no other burn cards, and since I'm not one to back down from a challenge, I started theory crafting ideas right away. But I did not know what I was getting myself into. If you don't know, full salvo reads send all cards in your hand to the graveyard and deal your opponent 200 damage for each card you sent. If we want to win with full salvo, we would need to discard at least 40 cards in order to deal the 8,000 points of damage needed to win a game. But that also means we would have to draw 40 cards somehow. But technically, Mr. Kane said I couldn't use burn cards. They didn't say anything about not attacking. Get wrecked! Better get a lawyer to look over your comments before challenging me. Don't forget to leave a like, and I will see you in the... Yeah, that wasn't good enough for me either. Plus, there's still a lot more of the video left. I guess we're going back to the lab. As I was saying, if we want to win with full salvo, we need to have at least 40 cards in our hand. Now, I have had strategies in the past that literally draw the entire deck, but actually having those 40 cards in our hand instead of mostly in the graveyard is a way bigger ask. So cards like Into the Void and Chicken Game will not work this time. I guess another option would be to just set full salvo turn 1 and then max C against a synchro or link spam player, but that would go against my code of ethics.
That's not on there. Wow, it's on there.
No, we need something much more interesting. Something infinite. After some brainstorming and a lot of internet searching, one combo came up: Chaos Emperor Dragon and Primal Seed. If you have BLS or Emperor Dragon on board, Primal Seed lets you add 2 of your banished cards back to your hand. Originally, this was intended to let you recoup the monsters that you just banished for their summon, which is adorable. And not remotely how we will be using it today. You see, if you have a card like Macrocosmos in play that banishes any card sent to the graveyard, Primal Seed will be banished once it resolves. And if you happen to have a second copy, there's nothing stopping you from picking up the original and playing it again. And again. And again, netting you an extra card each time and effectively letting you pick up every one of your banished cards. If we play a deck with around 45 cards, successfully performing this loop could potentially give us the 40 cards we need to win with full salvo. Kind of. This is already complicated, and we haven't even figured out how we can summon Chaos Emperor Dragon or set up the Primal Seed loop. But at least we have a solid direction for the deck. Now we just need to figure out how to banish every single card in our deck. Sure. Well, there is the Inferno Tempest Necroface combo where you basically banish every card in both players' decks, but that doesn't really work for us. Not only is Necroface limited to 2 in Master Duel, we would still need monsters engraved to summon Emperor Dragon, and we would have to start with all the cards we need in our opening hand, which is unlikely to say the least. This combo also heavily relies on the battle phase, and we can't forget the #1 rule of comboing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Never do something in 2 turns that can otherwise be done in 1 turn. If we are truly going to push the limits of what you can do in Yu-Gi-Oh!, we need to win with full salvo on turn 1. Wouldn't want to make it too easy, right?
Freeze.
Ignoring the challenges of winning with a trap card on the first turn of the game, the other option that came to mind was Fairy Tale Snow. Since its effect was poorly written, you can actually chain it to itself and banish your entire graveyard. That could definitely work. Now we just need a way to send every card in our deck to the graveyard, so we can banish every card in our graveyard, so we can pull off an infinite loop to add them all back to hand, just to send them to the graveyard again. All in 1 turn.
It's 106 blocks to Mac. I've got a full bladder, half an idea where I'm going. It's Tuesday, and I'm wearing sunglasses. Hit it!
Once again, there are a bunch of effects that can help you mill cards from deck to grave, but not many let you mill that much. Or is there? I present Cyber's Clock Dragon. This fusion lets you mill cards equal to the total link rating of link monsters used for its summon. Link summoning has to be the most broken mechanic Konami has ever introduced. If we can link summon around 10 or so times and then fuse them all with Clock Lizard, we could totally mill our entire deck this way. At least link spamming is probably the easiest one to check off, right? I probably shouldn't have said that out loud.
I just figured out Cyber's Clock Dragon. It requires the number of link ratings to be exactly the same as the number of cards in your deck. It can't be more than the number of cards in your deck, because if it's more, it won't activate. So you have to do the math, but it's okay as long as we have enough link material in Grave that we can do the math and have enough to get down to the right number for our deck. Okay, well that only took an hour and a half to figure out. Okay, back to the video.
Okay, so we also need to count up the number of link markers before fusing and make sure they exactly equal the number of cards left in our deck, because apparently having one too many means Cyber's Clock Dragon clocks out early. Alright, let's skip all the labbing and searching this time and just show the card that will let us link summon like crazy. Super Ancient Deep Sea King Coelacanth, who I will henceforth be calling Relicanth because I cannot be bothered to say his 33-character legal name every time. By discarding a card, Relicanth can summon 4 other fish monsters from your deck. Now you might be wondering, but how can you summon such a high-level monster on the first turn? Well, Grandpa Moto, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2025. Searching and summoning a random level 7 monster is the easy part. Now, we do still have a few missing checkboxes, like how can we activate a trap card on turn 1, and how can we craft the deck to be consistent enough to function at all? Well, there's definitely a way around the first one, but what if I told you that we can do all of this on the first turn with just 2 cards? Or sometimes 1.5. This combo is going to get ridiculous, so don't forget to leave a like, and let's get started. Let's begin by bringing out Summoner Monk and discarding a spell card to summon a level 4 monster from our deck. Out comes Lifeless Leaffish, who lets us bury Relicanth, and with 2 level 4 monsters, we can overlay for Duggarus and attach both materials to summon the Coelacanth that we just put in the graveyard. Discard to activate Relicanth and swarm the field with 4 more fishies. Now we can link up to Rasterlager and then use it to link for Zealantis. Using Zealantis' ability, we can banish our monsters and bring them right back. Now this might seem pointless, but since Relicanth's ability is a once per turn, banishing it and bringing it back actually resets its effect, allowing us to use it again. Now we can link away the other 2 monsters to free up board space for another Coelacanth activation. Summon 4 more fishies, this time making sure one of them is a tuner so we can synchro for Muddy Mud Dragon. Now summon Promethean Princess and use her effect to bring back Duggarus, one of the only fire-type monsters in the deck mind you, and then link again for Raging Phoenix. He won't be here long though, since we're using it to link summon another copy of Zealantis. Now we can show off Muddy Mud Dragon's ability. Since we're obviously not playing Clock Wyvern the way Konami intended, Mud Dragon can act as a substitute and fuse for Cyber's Clock Dragon. Since Zealantis was a Link 4, Clock Dragon will mill us 4 cards. Now that we have 2 level 7s, we can Exceed Summon Galaxy Tomahawk and use its ability to fill the board with tokens. The next step is Clock Lizard, which requires 2 Cyber's monsters to summon. So let's link for Firewall Dragon and Link Spider while leaving one of the tokens for later. And now we can finally bring out Clock Lizard, one of the keys to making our ridiculous combo work. This reptile allows us to fuse for Clock Dragon again, only this time we get to use all of the Link monsters in our graveyard as material. Of course, we don't want to repeat the same mistake from earlier, so I count up the number of Link markers in Grave and make sure it matches exactly to the 28 cards left in our deck, so that when Clock Dragon comes back, we can mill every single card in our deck. And that was only phase 1 of the combo.
Cursed energy is negative energy. While it can enhance the body, it can't regenerate it. So you multiply that negative energy again.
Using the token we left behind, let's activate Destrudo to summon itself, but more importantly, cut our life points in half. Now you might think it's weird that I'm so excited about losing life points here, but it's all part of the plan. Normally this zombie dragon is used as an extender for synchro summoning, but funny enough, we're only using him to reduce our life points. In fact, if he leaves the field, he goes back to the bottom of our currently non-existent deck, which would ruin our plans. So instead, he's just gonna hang out on board for the rest of the game. Next we'll activate Recover to reduce our life points to exactly 2,000 and summon it to the field as well. Now let's banish Keldo to shuffle back 1 copy of Primal Seed so that it's the only card left in our deck. Next, activate Fairy Tale Snow 5 times, chaining it to itself and banishing a total of 35 cards from our graveyard. We're also leaving behind a few specific cards that we need to use later in the combo. Because we're only halfway done at this point, let's take a breath. Alright, let's move on to phase 3 by activating Chaos Space in Grave. This lets us place Chaos Emperor Dragon on the bottom of our deck while drawing the one copy of Primal Seed that we shuffled in earlier. Well, I guess you can't really shuffle a one-card deck. Since we are able to reduce our life points to exactly 2,000, we can activate Signet Rollback in our graveyard. This will let us put Backup Supervisor back in our extra deck and add Anti-Human Intelligence Messiah to our hand. Now we link into Backup Supervisor twice, leaving us with a light and dark monster in grave for Chaos Emperor Dragon. Speaking of which, let's activate Fusion Substitute to draw it, leaving our deck with no cards again. We can banish those two monsters from grave to summon Emperor Dragon and finally place Messiah into our Pendulum Zone Tomato? Ugh, autocorrect. To make sure that all spells and traps get banished instead of going to the graveyard. A mere 32 steps later, give or take, and we have finally established our infinite loop. Now, every time we activate Primal Seed, it can add the copy of itself and one of our other banished cards to our hand. And when it resolves, Messiah will make sure it gets banished so we can repeat the process. This effectively lets us add every card from our deck back to our hand. The engine we made is finally running.
It's working! It's working!
We are almost there, so let's skip through all the button clicking and activate Monster Reborn to revive Fusion Parasite. Just like Muddy Mud Dragon, who is a distant memory at this point, he can substitute himself for any fusion material and fuse with Fairy Tale Snow to summon the legendary Dark Magicians. This is the key that will let us win the game by activating our trap card on turn 1. Now that they're on board, we can play the Humble Sentry. This lets us place full salvo from our hand back on top of our deck. Then the Dark Magicians will see that we played a spell and let us draw and set full salvo to our field while allowing us to activate it this turn. However, we don't quite have 40 cards in hand yet, so let's loop Primal Seed and Monster Reincarnation to fill out our hand and activate good old Mystical Space Typhoon to destroy Messiah. Since if we don't do that, full salvo will just end up banishing our 40 card hand without dealing any damage. I definitely learned that one the hard way. And finally, after making sure we have 40 plus cards in our hand, we can activate full salvo, discard every single card in our hand, and win the game. Of course, now that we've proven the deck can actually function and pull off our ridiculous game plan, you know we have to try it out in some real ranked games. Let's try that again? Wait a sec. Yeah, I saw that one coming. With the 5-minute time limit, which you know is really more like 10 minutes since the game pauses in between each card, we couldn't even get halfway through our combo, let alone loop Primal Seeds to redraw our entire deck. If you were playing in person, and were using the Master Duel ban list, you could always shortcut the loop by saying, I do this until I add all of my banished cards back to my hand. But in Master Duel, you have to click each card every time, and hit confirm between each effect, and hit... Even if the game did let me do all that, I don't think I could do that to someone. Stealing that much time from someone's evening would be absolutely criminal. As far as the deck goes, I had a ton of fun putting it together. It was a puzzle where every single card in the deck had a purpose. If my calculations are correct, you open the combo around 117% of the time. Man, statistics is not my strong suit. Anyway, please leave a like and maybe share the video because it took a lot of time and effort to make, and I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.
You're so right!